down.
That's his shaking of me get 3D catch line.
Oh, yeah, that too. You look at like it's alive.
So, I offered him popped in last fall.
About a year you can't keep up.
It's 6 o'clock. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. First item will be roll call.
Brown,
Here.
Hack,
Here.
Davis,
Here.
Murphy,
Here.
Gray,
Here.
yeah.
Here.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everyone take a moment of silence. It's comfortable with it. I would take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Everyone's had a chance to review the previous meeting's minutes. If there are no additions or corrections, they'll stand approved as presented. The visitors are Faith Bemis. Can you help me out with the name?
Eric Myers.
Thank you. There was no public comment sent in, so we'll move on to the officer's report, the chief's report.
Good evening. I'll try and talk fast so they can make their dinner reservation for Valentine's Day. Call volume, no surprises, pretty much on par from where we were with last year. Only got 1 month there. I do have last year's numbers in case anybody has any questions about those recent numbers. But the status zero events, both Windsor and Sedalia ops, no delay of care, no waiting on us at all. Those were just moments when we were completely out of service because all the units were engaged, and those were all due to staffing issues. Actually, there was one due to all the calls coming out at once, but primarily staffing issues. So the mileage, January 2023 mileage, we've had a couple things trade places as far as rank in there, but everything's pretty well close to where it has been, hanging around the 158,000 mark. The 10, the transit, of course, both transit, and they are backlined right now. But actually both of them are East Bay. If we need them, they're still stocked and still running, but they're pretty much held back on for good. Don't have any work comp stuff, but we did talk with our provider at Brandon, who's he with?
Change their name. Sure.
Thank you. Couldn't think of that. Did talk to him, he about the purchase of some binder lifts. There's possibly some grant money out there. I don't really have any information beyond that, but we are looking for possibly some help in purchasing those devices that we budgeted for. So hopefully we'll see something on that. I've had my head wrapped up. You guys have probably heard me talk about the red book before. This is the infamous red book. You're welcome to look through it, but it's kind of the beating heart of what it takes to be an ambulance service for the state of Missouri as far as the ground service operations are concerned. So every 5 years, go through an inspection on that, and I just submitted everything today. Don't anticipate any issues, but I won't know for probably a month as far as how well that's going. Our training in the book has a book about this big that Justin submitted a couple days ago as well. So I'll keep you posted on how those licenses go, but this is the important part we can here. Other than as staff and everything else, this is what keeps us going. So there's a lot of good information now. We did go ahead and get that ice maker purchased and installed. PCAD maintenance installed that, as well as a washer and dryer. They were on their last leg last week, so they went away. Did get those installed without any issues. Other than that, we've got some continuum software we're still pending. I've got 4 to 5 weeks on this. We've talked to them a little bit in the interim. I'm anticipating it being a little less than that, but you'll know because there'll be a lot more fancier reports in my board reports to you guys when it's up and running. So the PCJC, just some outside information. Our meeting was scheduled for tomorrow. It actually got canceled because of quorum issues, so we're rescheduling it. Nothing going on really right there. We will be closed on Monday, February 20th, in observation of President's Day. And right now we've got some education and stuff we're working on. Justin's doing AMLS again. This is that time of the year. AMLS, I've got the description if anybody has any questions about that. It's an excellent class. And I'm also working with Tricia Ruda over at the Custer County EMA on setting up some tabletop exercise. And I can't really get into the details of that because that would take all the excitement out of it. So we can try and keep a lid on that until it actually happens. But we're in the planning stages of that right now. So that's been interesting. The legislative issues, you'll probably hear me bring these up every once in a while. These are really the 2 hot button issues that are on the plate for our state legislature this year. I don't see any big resistance to either of them. 24, the Mental Health Initiative Act, and 210, both of them relate to mental health issues. One of them is, let's see, 24 is the right to seek treatment in any geographic area. This is for first responders, specifically for first responders and their access to behavioral health care, how insurance handles their claims for it, and how long they can make those claims. So basically it associates any sort of like PTSD with first responders specifically and provides some provisions for that. The other one says 120, that's actually been combined with a different bill now. It's SB 119, if anybody wants to keep an eye on it. And it's, I don't know why, but it got lumped in with a thing on police dogs. So nonetheless, they'll probably both pass. Actually, they both went out of due pass out of committee today. So I look forward to those probably passing without much opposition this year. And the second bill just defines PTSD as a compensable occupational disease under work comp when diagnosed in first responders. So it's something all of our lobbying agencies have really been trying to get in place for years. And I think it's finally actually going to make it across the finish line this year, but it's early, so who knows. Let's see, nothing going on with the union right now. The policy changes, the only thing we've got is issue 5E, that's an agenda item. And I planned on giving an update on hiring, and I'm unable to do that tonight just because some notices that went out in mail that haven't been received, so I can't really speak to that tonight, but I will have something solid for the board next week. Other than that, that's really all I have tonight.
Are there any questions, Greg?
I just have one, it's about your red book. Is it just paper review or do they come on time?
It used to be an on-site inspection. Ever since COVID started, they've been doing remote inspections. This will be our first remote, so I'm not sure exactly what it will entail. I don't think it'll be as bad as like Jayco, but it was all scanned in and shared by box, and I gave it a nice. I don't want any problems with this. This was one of the first things I did as a chief administrator for another service, and it's no small affair. So I give them everything gift wrapped in a bookmarked PDF, so literally they can go through the inspection sheet and just check it off. As far as physical inspections at site, they always have the right to come do that. But like I said, since COVID, and very few people actually work for the Bureau of EMS in Missouri, so I don't anticipate them coming down, but they're welcome to. Yes, sir.
Does they include any peer review or is it entirely bureaucratic?
There is some review of calls, but basically, what they're gonna do is they pull the very last, that's a great question. That's the very last item in this book is a call review. They pull 10 pediatric, 10 medical, and 10 trauma calls. And they look at our response times, our key performance indicators, which like I said, I have in the book for them. But they look through those calls specifically and they're just random to look at our response times and did we, they don't really look at, did we do the right thing, but they look at, did we follow our protocols? Did we color within the lines? In other words,
But would they call in some outside directors like you to sit on a panel during that review?
No.
There's no peers
in that regard,
involved
it
in
is,
there.
yeah, in that regard, it's just purely bureaucratic.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That doesn't make sense, though, that if you got it in your book, did you follow your book?
Exactly, yeah, if you write it down, it's the way it is. Yeah.
In schools, we have accreditation, we have a big notebook, we have to put all this stuff in. The staff is involved in it. Is the staff, do they do any kind of?
Somewhat, yeah,
self-evaluation?
everybody helps out with the book a little bit, you know, and that's why it's in the red folder. It's the red book. Justin pretty much did his on his own this time. He first started as training officer our last year inspection, which was 2017. So he had some experience in it before and he was able to do it just great this time. He's meticulous, so no problems there. But the other stuff, yeah, I've been on the staff to get the information.
So it's every 5-6 years?
Yeah, 35 years. Yeah, and there are midterms, which again, COVID, we didn't have this time. Normally they come do a cursory inspection in about 2.5 years, but we didn't have that.
Is there a fee that goes along with this? Don't fee with that.
And
Which
then,
is also why I probably.
then if it's, there's some areas of weakness, do they say you need to work on this?
Yeah.
So you develop a
Yeah.
plan to,
They'll go through line items. Generally, what they'll find is, you know, maybe they're looking for some items that nobody else has looked at in the past. They always try and find something to look at in specific. So, but I've never had any issues that didn't just require a little bit of rephrasing or a memo that's stating, yes, we're complying with this standard.
You usually have like 30 days after they send it back.
Yeah, but it's usually 30 minutes by the time, you know, we have all the stuff. It just depends on, there's a little bit of leeway with inspectors and when they come down, what they look for. So. Not my first one, thankfully.
Any other questions? If not, we'll move on to CFO report.
Okay, my report starts on page 8. I did want to let you guys know that we received the incentive for the LED upgrades yesterday. So that was $3,300. We got basically what it cost for us to do it. We got the money back. So on page 8, you will see the budget performance for 2022 in summary. And you'll notice that's March draft. And I do that in December because we'll be audited just in case there's any sort of adjusting entry that changes things. I've never had an adjusting entry, but there's only the first time for everything. So, so in total there, our total operating revenue was 111% of budget for the year. You can see there we were over budget 882,000. 314,000 of it was that provider relief fund payment we received last year. And that reporting will be done, actually that reporting for 2021 will be done by the end of March as well. Ambulance operations, you can see there we were over budget, 107.85%. Repairs and maintenance, tip expense, same ones we've looked at all year round. But total expenses were under budget, $1,171,669.65. About $1 million of that, you can see there on the capital purchase expenses, was the things that we didn't purchase that we rolled forward to 2023. Any questions on any of that?
So that $1 million that we didn't spend that is rolled over. So the problem's figuring out that, and our budget for next year still went up over this year's budget that we didn't spend this $1 million out of, correct?
Because we we roll forward the revenue and the expense.
And expense, okay,
Does that make sense?
as long as we're not, yeah, okay.
So if you look at this one, the prior year carry forward there, 728,000. We also roll forward 728,000 of capital expenses in the budget. Okay, page 9, you can see the details there. Total service fees, again, it was still the same percentage as overall operating revenue, 111% over budget. And then total operating revenue, again, 111% of budget. You can see the breakdown there, ambulance operations, ambulance and vehicle fuel, maintenance, and EMS equipment maintenance. For the items that went over. Page 10, EMS radios, equipment and radio repair. One of those actually is under budget, one's over budget, but in total, we're just slightly over budget on those two. Other things that are over budget for the retirement contributions, we just had more participation in that than we had in previous years, so that was up. As well as wages were up slightly, 29,000. So almost on target, we are 100.73%. So pretty close. Employee recognition, you guys had approved that $1,000 donation we got to put to employee recognition, so that's why that's over budget there. Overall, total employee was under budget. Page 11. License and permits. So we had to revalidate on Medicare last year, which was kind of a surprise because of during COVID, they put all those on hold and they didn't tell us when our date would be until this year. So we had to pay for that this year and revalidate this year, which we didn't anticipate. So that put us a little bit over budget there. Accounting CPA. We got our bids after the budget was done last year, so that's why that accounting CPA is 14,000 and we budgeted 10. Repairs and maintenance, education building, highway TT, and main building. We went through all of those. Does anybody have any questions on what those were? Ice machine, that was just slightly over budget. They increased the price throughout the year. And then, like Eric said, we bought an ice maker, so that will be gone. I think we had it in January and then it's gone. So tip expense, again, we talked about that before. A sales tax remitted for several months from a previous year is why that was up. Training material, there was just more people that needed the alphabet soup classes than anticipated. And then gas, that's just been up since last year. Actually, I think the last 2 years now it's went up, but it's went up again since the significant drop a couple of years ago. And then trash pickup, this one is up. This year we paid for Windsor and we never paid for Windsor before. So I don't know if that was just a billing oversight on the provider's part or if they were donating that service. But that's why that one's up.
Is that something that we bid out?
We have not bid that out in the past. No. So you can see there our total operating expense is under budget again, we talked about before. And then our non-operating income was over budget, about 310,000 over budget. A lot of that was interest income. Interest, as everybody knows, shot up last year over what it had been. And then the safety dividend that we received from NEN last year, we won't get that this year. They did away with those. And the fines and penalties recoupment contributed to that as well. Any questions on any of that?
I would just make a comment if I could. I think Jamie should be commended for working diligently on the budget and getting this. I know it took you a lot of time when it's time to do this. And, you know, I personally, and I think the board appreciates the work you do on this because it comes out
Thank you. I
really,
appreciate it.
really quite close considering all the moving parts.
Well, a lot of that is luck. I'll be honest.
Well,
I mean, they're all educated guesses, so we do it the best we can,
Yeah,
but
keep that crystal ball going.
yeah, if I could find that, I wouldn't be here anymore, I'm sorry. So page 13, again, is the details of those capital expenses, what we purchased, what we budgeted for, and the items we didn't purchase. So the ambulance we rolled forward. Station 3 we rolled forward. And, oh, the radio and equipment for the ambulance we rolled forward. So really not too many items to be rolled forward. They're just the big dollar amount ones that we rolled. Any questions on any of that? Page 14 is the balance sheet comparison. So you can see there the overall change from December of 21 to December of 22. The increase in assets of 1.3 million, and it's the same, of course, for liabilities and net position. Any questions on any of those? Okay, page 15 is the profit and loss previous year comparison. So you can see there the increases in sales tax revenue and service fees. Service fees, it's like a really big increase, but remember we had a lot we had to pay back to the OIG last year. That contributed to that big change from 21 to 22. And then on the operating expense side, an increase of 418,000 over 2021. And as would be expected, most of that is employee costs. Any questions on that? Okay, the last report there is first on page 16. That is our profit and loss by class. So that's where we break down Pettis County and Windsor. Anything we can do with actuals, we do. So all the revenue is actual numbers, except for the part rider relief fund payment, that is an allocation. And then anything I can do, so ambulance vehicle, fuel, maintenance, equipment maintenance, those are actuals. That supplies are actual. It's an actual. Everything on that page pretty much is an actual. Allocate our actual expense. The things that we allocate, the biggest things are we allocate our insurance based on wages. So our wages are actual. The staff that works at Windsor gets coded to Windsor, and we book that, do that actual expense. And then what else is allocated? So everything else is allocated pretty much here except for wages are actual. Patient runs their expense again is an actual, since we know what that revenue was. And then page 19, get down to the bottom line there. And then we have been doing this allocation for several years, adding back the fair market value of the Windsor facilities that we pay pretty much nothing for. It's $1 lease. And then we add back, take out, I'm sorry, the revenue from Pettis calls ran from Windsor, and add back the expenses for Pettis calls ran from Windsor. And this year it ended up being 45% Pettis calls that were ran from Windsor. So almost half of the calls that are ran from Windsor are Pettis. So any questions on any of that? I'm going to get everything to the auditor by the end of this week, so she can get started. So it's a lot sooner than we have been doing in the past. So I'm confident we'll get that faster this year. Page 20 is our sales tax receipts so far in 2023. For February, it was up quite a bit. We were $331,845.76. That's about a 20% increase over last year in February. Any questions on any of that? Right, okay. Last couple of things here. Bills, current bills, page 21 is the summary. So you'll see there we made up for our short little bills in January. There's a long list here in February. The details are pages 22 through 26. And then the credit card statement follows that as well. Any questions on any of those? There's no questions, that's the end of my report.
Are there any other questions for Jamie? If not, I would take a motion to approve payment of outstanding bills.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. Move on to unfinished business, the capital expense transfers. Page 30.
Yeah. So this is the transfers of the different, to different accounts for the items that we budgeted for 2023. You can see there, I put what the balance was when this was calculated, so February 9th, what we budgeted for capital expenses, less the 845,000 for Station 3. Those funds are tied up in our US Treasury notes. And then what the transfer amounts need to be to get the projected balance to cover, plus $1,000 is what you guys indicated you'd like to leave in those accounts. So that's where those numbers came from. Any questions on any of that?
If there are no questions, I take a motion to approve those transfers.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Resolution 2023-01, amending the 2022 operating budget.
So these, all of these 20 items are the items we went through in the budget. We looked at what was over budget for the year. So any questions on any of that?
I'm new to this. Why is it that we do this?
Because we're required to by statute.
Okay.
We let it loose.
Well, I just, you know, it seemed like
I
just
know.
end of the year, we're just gonna
Yeah.
Yeah, I had the same question last year.
group it up here and then say. Yeah.
That's the same question 2 years ago.
Thank you.
Take a motion to approve that resolution.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. Floor covering replacement.
34 through 36 is what I put together. The dates we put, the bids should be in by March 14th, which would be the first meeting in March. And there's an open at that meeting and then make a decision at the next meeting.
Are there any questions on that? I'll take a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. The annual mowing bid and specs.
So we bid that out for 2 years, I believe, last time. This we have set for 3. And the same date, March 14th for return of bids.
items on the Moyne bid. Now I have to take a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Employee handbook update.
Sure.
Okay, all right. Well, it's got dollar signs in it, so this is basically just reflecting the 5% increase to approving the labor agreement. We update this chart in our handbook every time, anytime there's a change to those wages, so. That's reflected in it.
Any questions on those changes?
We accept them.
Is there a second? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. What's the word? Surplus office equipment.
Part of our clearing out process, moving things around process involves that room over there. I don't know if you guys have stuck your head in there. There's a huge boardroom table in there. It's just like the one I have across the street, except it's got a couple holes in the middle of it like this. We have no use for it, but we can't just, give it away. So we need to put it on gov deals for whatever we can get out of it. It is large. I wish I had something better to do with it. Like I said, it's a nice table. We just frankly don't have room or need for it right now. I don't think we're going to have.
We
need for
used
it
it
anytime
as
soon.
a multi-hole pool table.
We could.
They don't need it at either of the other stations.
It's just it's a big, not, I don't know if you call that oval, but yeah, it's a big, nice table. Generally, we started having boardrooms across the street in the district, first moved over here. Then we bought this building and got that table over here because we do use the one across the street quite a bit, but not for board meetings, obviously, as you know, so.
The Hudson County SB 40 board is remodeling a new facility and has a large conference room. You might contact Travis Dumas.
We can't do that.
Well, what if they wanted to buy it? You have to auction it.
Yeah. Would that be for
Take sealed bids then?
It'll be on that deals.
Or it'll be on gov deals. Okay, no, I'll just tell them about it. Thank you.
Okay, I was gonna say, I can.
I just thought maybe you
Yeah,
wanted to do something for another local nonprofit.
it's a nice table.
All right.
I don't think it's be nice if we could get rid of it. Okay.
There's also a desk across the street too.
Oh, that's the one setting up, yeah. I don't have a description of it, but it's just another piece of furniture, office equipment that we don't need to get rid of. That one's an antique, I believe. That's the way it was purchased about 6-7 years ago. None of us has ever used it. It's basically a placeholder for wayward junk. It's not a functional office desk either, so I'd like to just get rid of it. We've had it quite a while, and I think the district is owned it about 8 years. That's all I have on that.
When we go to the new coding, when we hire our coders, and when we build our building out here, you don't see any use for either of those.
I really
Either
don't.
place.
The table, definitely not. The desk is, like I said, it was never a functional desk.
It's not computer. friendly.
Yeah.
I don't think it even has drawers. It has one small drawer in the top and it doesn't have drawers in it.
For coaches.
It was the HR.
Oh, but
That's a good.
Keep the whistle in here.
So you want a motion to approve the disposal of those items? Or
Yeah, I'll put them both on WS.
I move we put the items on gov deal.
do we have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Do you guys want to do that like we did the radios with no reserve, just?
Yeah.
Yeah.
just, I was going to pay.
No, thank you.
Since we have no new business, are there any announcements?
I just want to say on behalf of our family, thank you. The guys were amazing.
Glad we did that.
Yeah, they were there so fast. I mean, so fast and worked so hard.
It was nice to know they did that for everybody.
They beat me there. I mean, yeah.
Are there any other announcements? Now I'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Will we adjourn?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.